My friends, we live in a world where everyone wants to be seen, heard, and loved. But very few want to sit alone and heal. You see, we rush into friendships, relationships, and even distractions, not because we're ready, but because we're lonely. And that's the biggest mistake we make. Staying alone is not a punishment, it's a process. It's not isolation, it's incubation. Because sometimes the most powerful transformation happens in silence. When you choose to stay alone until you heal, you are telling the world, I will not bleed on people who didn't cut me. You are saying, I will not let my pain decide my next connection. So today, let's talk about this sacred journey. Why staying alone until you heal is one of the most loving things you can ever do for yourself. When you stay alone, people might say you've become distant. They might think you're lost. But the truth is, you're not lost, you're under construction. You're rebuilding something sacred on yourself. When life breaks you, when someone leaves you, betrays you, or when your trust is crushed, you don't heal by replacing them, you heal by reconnecting with you. You don't need another person to fill the emptiness inside you. You need time, patience, and compassion to refill your own soul. You see, when a building is damaged, the first thing they do is clear the debris before rebuilding. You can't lay new bricks on top of the broken ones. In the same way, when your heart has been shattered, you can't build a healthy connection on top of pain. You have to clear the emotional debris, and that happens only in solitude. Being alone gives you space to breathe, to think, to feel without filters, without the noise of others' opinions. It's the time when you can finally ask yourself questions like, who am I now? What did I learn from what happened? What do I want to become next? These questions are not answered in crowded rooms. They are answered in silence. But here's the thing most people don't realize: solitude is not the absence of people, it's the presence of peace. When you stay alone and begin to rebuild, you start noticing small shifts. You become more grounded, more aware, more connected to your own values. You begin to choose people, not because you're lonely, but because you're ready. It's in those quiet nights when you sit alone with your thoughts that real healing begins. You cry, you reflect, you release. And slowly the wounds that once defined you start turning into wisdom that refines you. That's the beauty of staying alone until you heal. You don't just recover, you rebuild better. So don't rush. Don't let the world's noise convince you that being alone means being unloved. Because in truth, this is the season where you are learning to be your own home. And when you finally rebuild yourself from that place of wholeness, no storm can ever break you the same way again. In today's world, silence has become one of the rarest experiences. We wake up to notifications, fall asleep to noise, and in between we drown in endless conversations that never truly touch the soul. But silence, real, deep, mindful silence, is where healing begins, because silence speaks what words cannot. When you choose to be alone and quiet, something magical starts to happen. The outer noise begins to fade, and the inner voice, the one you've ignored for so long, begins to whisper again. At first, it feels uncomfortable. You may feel restless. You might even feel an ache in your chest, a longing to talk to someone, to distract yourself. But if you resist that urge to run and simply sit with yourself, you'll start to hear the gentle language of your heart. That voice might say things like, "I'm tired, I'm hurt, I just want peace." And that's when the real healing begins, not by covering the pain with noise, but by listening to what your soul has been trying to say. Silence doesn't mean emptiness, it means connection. It's the bridge between your wounds and your wisdom. Think about it. When a lake is stormy, you can't see your reflection. But when it becomes still, the water turns into a mirror. The same happens with your mind. When your life is filled with noise, drama, and distractions, you lose sight of who you truly are. But when you allow yourself a period of silence, your thoughts settle, and suddenly you can see yourself again. Silence is not the absence of communication. It's the highest form of it. It's in silence that you finally begin to understand your emotions instead of reacting to them. You start realizing which relationships drain you and which ones nourish you. You begin to separate the temporary from the timeless. But silence is not always peaceful at first. It often begins with confrontation, not with others, but with yourself. When you stop talking, you start hearing. You start hearing the truth you've been avoiding, the mistakes you've been denying, the pain you've been postponing. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary, because until you listen to the pain, it keeps screaming through your behavior, your choices, and your relationships. So when you sit alone in silence, don't try to fill it. Let it do its work. Let silence become your teacher, your therapist, your mirror. Sit in that space long enough, and you'll begin to feel a shift. Your anger softens, your fears shrink, your mind slows down, and then you'll start noticing the smallest details, the sound of your own breath, the rhythm of your heartbeat, the peace that was always within you, waiting to be rediscovered. Silence is not running away from the world, it's returning to yourself. It's the moment when your inner chaos meets your inner calm. And once you taste that kind of silence, you'll realize you don't always need answers from people. Sometimes you just need quiet from the world to hear the answers that were already inside you. When your heart is wounded, when it has bled from disappointment, betrayal, or loss, the temptation to fill that empty space is strong. You want comfort. You want warmth. You want someone to make you forget what broke you. But the truth, my friend, is this. If you invite new people into your life before you've healed, you are not building love, you are building repetition. You are not beginning a new chapter. You are rereading the same painful one in a different handwriting. We often think another person will save us from our sadness, that their presence will heal our loneliness. But here's the reality. When you haven't healed, your pain becomes the filter through which you see everyone. You start comparing, assuming, expecting. You start looking for reassurance, not love, for escape, not connection. You end up punishing people for wounds they didn't cause. And that's not love, that's emotional recycling. When you bring new people into your old pain, you unconsciously make them carry a burden they didn't create. You project your past onto your present. You start looking for signs of betrayal in kindness, rejection in silence, abandonment in space. You see ghosts of your past where there are none. And soon, you realize the relationship is not healing you. It's reopening every unhealed wound. Healing means giving yourself the time to separate what happened to you from who you are. Until you do that, you'll keep confusing pain with passion, chaos with chemistry, attachment with love. You can't expect someone new to clean up the mess your past left behind. That's your sacred work. That's your responsibility. If you covet this way, if your hands are full of broken glass and someone hands you a flower, you'll cut yourself and them too. Not because the flower was dangerous, but because you never took time to put the glass down. Staying alone until you heal is about putting the glass down. It's about saying, I need to stop hurting myself and others with the shards of my past. When you choose to stay alone, you give your heart space to breathe. You learn how to be okay with your own company. You begin to discover what peace feels like when it's not dependent on anyone else. And once you find that peace within, you stop seeking it outside. That's when love transforms from a need into a gift. Because real love cannot exist in the shadow of old pain. Real love needs clarity, not confusion. It needs readiness, not rescue. It needs two whole people choosing each other, not two broken souls clinging to each other. So if you're still healing, don't rush to replace. Don't rush to move on. Take the time to sit with yourself. Take the time to learn the lessons your pain came to teach. Because when you heal, you will stop attracting people who match your wounds and start attracting people who match your worth. Stay alone until your heart stops shaking when it hears the name that hurt you. Stay alone until your smile doesn't hide your scars anymore. Stay alone until peace feels normal. Because that's when you know you're ready to love again, not from emptiness, but from wholeness. Pain, it's the one thing we all try to run from. We bury it under distractions, hide it behind smiles, or drown it in work, entertainment, and relationships. But here's a truth most people never realize, as pain is not your enemy. Pain is your greatest teacher. It's the one that never lies to you. It arrives not to destroy you, but to wake you up. When you go through heartbreak, loss, or betrayal, you often say, why me? But if you sit quietly with that pain, instead of running away from it, you begin to understand that life is not punishing you. It's preparing you. Every ache, every tear, every sleepless night carries a message. Pain says, look deeper. Pain says, something within you needs attention. It's not there to hurt you. It's there to heal you. If you're willing to listen. Running from pain only multiplies it. The more you avoid it, the louder it gets. You can cover it with distractions, but it never disappears. It just waits for you in silence. Healing begins the moment you stop running, the moment you sit down and say, okay, pain, I'm listening. That's when pain turns into a teacher. Think about it. When you touch fire and get burned, the pain teaches you not to do it again. In the same way, emotional pain teaches you what boundaries you need, what people to trust, what patterns to break, what parts of you need growth. If you don't sit with that pain and learn from it, you'll keep repeating the same lesson again and again, just with different faces and different stories. When you finally allow yourself to feel, really feel, you release what's been trapped inside for years. You cry not because you're weak, but because you're cleansing your soul. Every tear is a piece of pain leaving your body, and as you sit with it, the edges of your wounds start to soften. You start seeing how everything that once broke you is actually shaping you into a wiser, deeper, more compassionate person. You see, pain breaks down your pride, it humbles your ego, it teaches you empathy. It forces you to grow in ways comfort never could. It's in pain that you discover what truly matters, who truly stays, and what truly heals. Pain strips away illusions about people, about life, and about yourself. And when those illusions fall apart, truth begins to emerge. Most people want to skip this part. They want healing without feeling, transformation without tears. But you can't heal a wound you refuse to touch. You can't build strength without facing the storm. You can't find peace without walking through chaos. Pain is the bridge between the person you were and the person you're becoming. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Maybe it's teaching you patience. Maybe it's teaching you self-worth. Maybe it's teaching you how to finally let go of what was never meant for you. When you stop running and allow yourself to sit with your pain, not judge it, not escape it, you'll start noticing that it changes shape. What once felt unbearable begins to feel enlightening. You realize that your pain was never there to destroy you, it was there to reveal you. It was chiseling away everything that wasn't authentic, everything that wasn't you. So next time life hurts, don't rush to silence the pain. Sit with it, listen to it, thank it. Because one day, you'll look back and say, that pain was the reason I grew. That pain was the reason I found myself. So pain is a teacher that doesn't use words. It uses transformation. And if you let it, it will take you from broken to beautiful, from wounded to wise, and from hurting to healed. Just as your body needs rest after a long day, your mind and heart also need recovery after carrying emotional burdens. You can't keep pouring from an empty cup. You can't keep giving, fixing, loving, or pretending you're okay when your soul is exhausted. That's why staying alone for a while is not weakness, it's maintenance. It's how you rebuild your emotional immunity. You see, just like our physical body has an immune system that protects us from diseases, our emotions have one too. It's called self-awareness. And when you're constantly surrounded by people, noise, and distractions, you weaken that emotional immune system. You start reacting instead of reflecting. You start absorbing other people's moods, fears, and negativity until you can't tell what's yours and what's theirs. Being alone gives you the sacred space to detox your heart. It's like taking your mind to a quiet garden where it can finally breathe again. When you sit in solitude without the need to explain yourself or please anyone, your emotions start to balance out. You begin to understand why you feel what you feel. You notice the patterns behind your pain. And slowly, your emotional system begins to reset. Think about how your phone works. When too many apps are open, it starts to lag, overheat, and drain the battery. What do? You close everything, give it time to cool down, and let it charge. Your mind works the same way. Every argument, every stress, every unspoken feeling, all those open tabs drain your emotional energy. Solitude is the moment you press reset. But here's something important. Solitude doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean cutting everyone off forever. It means connecting deeply with yourself before connecting again with others. It's learning to be okay without constant validation, without someone needing to check on you, without the urge to escape your own company. Because the truth is, if you can't sit alone with your thoughts, it means there's something inside you that's been begging to be heard. When you allow yourself that quiet space, something begins to shift. You start building strength that no chaos can shake. You stop getting triggered so easily. You begin to respond, not react. You learn how to protect your peace, not by avoiding people, but by mastering your emotions. That's emotional immunity. When life throws storms at you, but you stay steady because you've already learned how to calm your inner ocean. Solitude teaches you to stop depending on others for stability. It helps you become emotionally self-sufficient. And that doesn't mean you stop needing love. It means you stop depending on love to survive. You begin to give and receive it freely, without fear or desperation. You'll notice that when you spend time alone and allow yourself to heal, your mind becomes clearer. You no longer crave chaotic situations. You stop chasing temporary happiness. Instead, you find peace in simple things. The sound of rain, a deep breath, the feeling of sunlight on your skin. You start realizing that happiness doesn't come from being surrounded by people. It comes from being surrounded by peace. That's what solitude does. It cleans your emotional wounds and strengthens your mental immune system. It teaches you that it's okay to pause, to rest, to step back. Because in those moments of rest, you are not wasting time. You are recharging your soul. When you come out of that phase, you're stronger, calmer, and wiser. You no longer fall for the same emotional traps. You no longer tolerate what disturbs your peace. You no longer confuse noise for connection. You become grounded, like a tree that can withstand any storm. Not because it avoids the rain, but because its roots have grown deep. So don't be afraid to be alone for a while. Don't be afraid to recharge. Because solitude is not loneliness. It's therapy. It's how your heart rebuilds its immunity. It's how your soul learns to protect its peace. And when you return to the world after that, you don't come back empty. You come back whole. Healing demands honesty, and that's one of the hardest truths most of us try to avoid. We love the idea of healing, the idea of moving on, of feeling light and peaceful again. But when the process begins, when life starts asking us to look deep into our pain, to admit what we've done, to acknowledge what we've allowed, that's when most people stop. Because honesty hurts before it heals. You see, true healing doesn't happen by pretending everything is fine. It begins when you finally admit, I'm not okay. It begins when you drop the mask you wear in front of the world and face the mirror that doesn't lie. Healing is not just about letting go of what others did to you. It's about being brutally honest about what you did to yourself. The times you ignored the red flags. The times you said yes when your heart was screaming no. The times you stayed silent to keep the peace, even when it cost you your own. Being honest with yourself means taking responsibility, not blame, responsibility. It means saying, yes, they hurt me, but I also ignored the signs. I also chose to stay where I was breaking. That's not self-criticism, that's self-awareness. And without that awareness, there is no growth, only repetition. Many people heal only on the surface because they never dare to dig deep enough. They clean the wound, but they don't remove what caused the infection. They say, I've moved on, but deep inside, they're still bleeding, just quietly. And you can't fool your soul. You can post smiles, you can fake strength, you can convince everyone that you're fine. But when the night gets quiet, your truth whispers back to you. That's the voice you must stop ignoring. Honesty during healing also means allowing yourself to feel what you actually feel, not what you think you should feel. You don't have to be graceful all the time. You don't have to forgive right away. You don't have to be okay every morning. Sometimes healing looks messy. Sometimes it looks like crying over things you thought you'd forgotten. Sometimes it looks like breaking down before you break through. And that's okay, because pretending you're fine only delays the healing. You can't heal what you keep hiding. Every emotion you suppress becomes energy trapped inside you. Every lie you tell yourself, it doesn't matter, I'm over it, I'm fine, becomes another brick in the wall between you and your peace. The only way out is through honesty, through saying, yes, I'm still hurt. Yes, I still miss them. Yes, I still feel angry. That level of truth is uncomfortable, but it's also freeing. Because once you name your pain, it starts losing its power over you. Think of it like cleaning a wound. If you don't disinfect it, it festers. It might look fine from the outside for a while, but deep down, infection grows. The same happens emotionally. When you refuse to face what's inside, you carry it everywhere, into new relationships, new friendships, new opportunities, until one day the pain leaks out again in the form of fear, insecurity, or anger. Honesty prevents that. Honesty cleans the wound, even if it stings at first. And remember, being honest doesn't mean being harsh on yourself. It means being as real. It means saying, I'm learning, I'm healing, I made mistakes, but I'm growing. It's about accepting yourself with all your flaws and still choosing to show up for your healing. That kind of honesty builds strength that no lie can replace. So if you truly want to heal, start by being honest. Sit with yourself and ask the hard questions. What am I running from? What am I pretending not to see? What part of me still needs forgiveness? And when the answers come, don't turn away, don't judge them, just listen. Because the truth you're avoiding is the key to the peace you're searching for. Healing demands honesty because healing is not about fixing the surface. It's about cleansing the soul. It's not about creating a new version of you. It's about returning to the version that existed before the world told you to hide. So take off the mask. Speak your truth. Even if your voice shakes, cry if you must, admit if you're broken. Because only when you face your truth can you finally set yourself free. Letting go of the need to be understood is one of the most powerful and most painful parts of healing, because deep down, every one of us wants to be seen, heard, and validated. We want someone to say, I get you. I understand what you went through. You didn't deserve that. But the reality of life is, not everyone will understand your silence, your distance, or your pain. And if you keep chasing understanding from others, you'll keep reopening wounds that are trying to close. Healing is deeply personal. It's sacred. It's something that happens quietly, in the hidden corners of your soul where words can't reach. Yet most of us, when we start to heal, try to explain ourselves to friends, to family, to the very people who hurt us. We say, I'm not angry, I'm healing. I'm not distant, I'm protecting my peace. I'm not cold, I'm learning to value my warmth. But not everyone will see it that way. Some will think you've changed. Some will call you selfish. Some will say you've become hard or detached. But my dear friend, that's okay. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your peace. You don't have to justify your boundaries to people who benefited from your lack of them. Healing means realizing that your inner peace is more important than their outer approval. It's understanding that the people who truly love you won't need to understand every detail. They'll simply respect your process. You see, the need to be understood often comes from a deeper wound, the fear of being misunderstood or rejected. Maybe all your life, you try to please people, to make them like you, to make them stay. Maybe you are always the one explaining, fixing, or defending yourself. But healing asks you to break that pattern. It asks you to choose peace over proving, to choose solitude over misunderstanding, to choose silence over arguments that go nowhere. When you stop needing to be understood, you start freeing yourself. You stop explaining your choices, your silence, your distance. You begin to realize understanding is a luxury, not a requirement. Not everyone has the capacity to see your depth, to grasp your pain, or to comprehend your boundaries. And that's not your fault, nor theirs. Everyone perceives life through the lens of their own wounds. Some people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. So instead of trying to make them understand, bless them and release them. Let them think what they need to. Let them have their version of the story. You don't have to correct every misconception or defend every decision. Truth doesn't need explanation, it needs peace. And peace grows when you stop chasing validation and start nurturing your inner calm. Think of a tree. It doesn't explain why it sheds its leaves. It doesn't justify why it stands still when the seasons change. It simply trusts that growth is happening within. Even when no one sees it, the same goes for you. You don't need to announce your healing. You don't need to prove your growth. The people meant for you will notice the calm in your eyes and feel the softness in your energy. They'll see your peace and understand it without words. And yes, it hurts when people misunderstand your silence, when they think your withdrawal means you don't care. But remind yourself, silence doesn't mean indifference, it means introspection. Distance doesn't mean disinterest, it means discernment. Sometimes you have to step back, not because you've stopped loving, but because you've started respecting yourself. Healing asks for solitude, but also for surrender, surrendering the need to be seen in order to be centered. You stop waiting for closure from others because you learn how to give it to yourself. You stop expecting people to understand what they've never lived. You start realizing that being misunderstood doesn't take away your truth. It only shows that your truth was never meant for everyone to grasp. So, if you're on a healing journey, remember this. Not everyone will understand your silence. Not everyone will understand why you're choosing peace over presence, calm over chaos, or solitude over social circles. And that's okay, because you are not healing for them. You are healing for you. Let go of the need to be understood. You're not here to be explained. You're here to become whole. And sometimes wholeness looks like walking away quietly, smiling softly, and letting people misunderstand you, while you go on to find a peace